Alright boys, we're back again. Another video. This time we're going to be going over primarily the jewel system and some of the stats we're going to get from that. I got linked by, a viewer, somebody here. 1 second, I'm going to give them a shout out. SitCloud 608 or 6083 right here. He said, "Hey, I got a spreadsheet for you." Shot me over a spreadsheet that was done by Vinn. Vinn is one of the admin/owners, I believe, of the Dojo. He made this insane spreadsheet, or let me see if I can find this. Oh my goodness, I have so many different things open at the moment. It's just right here, duh. Oh yeah, so he made the spreadsheet. We're gonna go over this in just a moment. Before we do, this is going to be just this is just something I've been poring over. All of the maps, all of the images that I've found so far, trying to get some more information for you guys. Just some small things that I noticed that might be interesting to you. So we briefly last time, this is just gonna take 2 seconds. Trust me, this is worth it. Last time we talked about, or one of the other videos, we talked about doing a run into Brighthaven early on for a way to progress out of tier 1, right, to get in here. And I mentioned you can run this way, come down, run through the wall, blah blah blah. That method's still absolutely viable, but check this out. After looking at the maps for a very long time, first of all, let me get my very high quality image here. Check this out. Okay, this is a change right here. See this right here? Let me just highlight this area right there. All right, watch this. So you come up this way. Oh, that's not the right one. Come up this way, right? So you get, say you get wolf form at the beginning of the game. So wolf form has the jump now, which I believe gives iframes. If it doesn't, it's still going to be so fast that it's probably going to be pretty easy to dodge riflemen. So say you get a level 10, whatever level you want to be, you can run up this way, right? And there's 2 riflemen at this gate right here, or 2 soldiers. You can dodge that. You can either run straight here, or you can actually run along this side. There's a little bridge right here. You can run past this. This is a tier 2 camp right here. There's sometimes you'll catch a patrol on this road, but it's not very often. So you can actually run like this and cut straight down over here off the path. There's only like wolves over here. Run all the way over. I would imagine you can jump down this, come over here, run up this ramp, and then I'm not sure if you can run down this way, or if you could just go up here and jump down. Now on the normal map right now, you can actually currently already get up here with bat form. You cannot get up here otherwise, but there's a bunch of like cool frog form jumps you can do around here, and you can eventually just jump down here. Obviously, there's no point. You can just bat form here and jump down if you want, but on this, with this entrance here, suddenly this is very, very interesting to me. So imagine, it's not impossible to imagine a world where you come down here with wolf, run across here, go like this and jump down right either there, or if you can come this way or over here, whatever, jump down this way. Because right here, right there, is the stables with 3 horses. So you can use that to even just get a horse if you want, to further, allow you to run through the area. So that is like really something interesting that I wanted to share. So anyway, that's just a brief thing. We're going to jump into the jewel system. So again, this is made by Vinn over at the Dojo. I asked him for permission on this, if I could share this. He said absolutely, share it with as many people as you can and want. So here we go. I'm not going to go through every single individual one of these abilities because that would take a while. It's every single thing here, but they've done some extensive testing at the moment. And I wanted to show just how strong some of these abilities are. So we know the tier system of jewels. Each jewel has a tier between 1 and 3. Depending on the tier is how many abilities it'll have. So tier 1 jewels will have 1 ability, 1 affix, I guess you could say. Tier 2 is 2 affixes. Tier 3 is 3. So we can say the earlier we can start farming those tier 3s, the better, which is why I wanted to bring this up, because the earlier we can get in here, the earlier you can start farming those tier 3s. If you're playing with like a duo where one person is really good at slamming through progression by themselves, and then the other person is just like farming mats for tier 2 in here, as well as jewels and stuff, like that might be something to consider doing. With a squad, or like a 4-man, it'd be even easier. So you can send just one guy up there, and the other 3 do what they're supposed to do. You know, get everything moving with progression and whatnot. Okay, so let's go over some of these things. Some things I noticed that seemed really crazy. So you'll notice like some of these abilities, the names have kind of changed. What school they're in is kind of changed. Blood Fountain is basically just Purgatory, but now it's a blood move instead. That seems to be the biggest change. Like how they just moved it over to the blood tree. But just check some of this stuff out. So obviously, feel free to take a look at this spreadsheet yourself and really like dig in here. I dug into this all this morning, just read every single one of these to get an idea about what I thought for each of these abilities. Just to see, you know, what I would think, okay, what would be like a really good thing to look at in each tree. So first of all, Blood Fountain, solid move. It seems like, Fading Snare, pretty good. Recast, this is interesting. I would love to play around with this. Explosion damage, pretty cool. But let me just show you something I noticed. So Blood Rage. This move, if I remember correctly, no longer gives a shield, like on cast, the way it normally works now. It no longer gives a shield. It just gives like attack speed and move speed. I think it like heals allies around you, something along those lines. But let's just look at this, this right here, what we can add, what it adds. So the first thing I noticed in this that was like, it seems pretty cool. Like grants a shield, that's pretty cool. Removes negative effects, so it cleanses now. If you can get that skill, that seemed kind of cool. But this was like, I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Like both of these together, I was like, what are you guys smoking? This is crazy. 20% physical power is absurd amounts of power. Like, this is absurd damage. An absurd damage bonus. So imagine you couple this with, like, Warrior Blood, or, we'll get to this. Also, there's Power Surge down here, which also has physical power. I noticed both of those, and I was like, hold on, what the... So do that with that, and then have, like, a physical build where you're not really focusing on using projectiles. You're just, like, rushing people down with any kind of weapon that has a good gap closer. That is pretty wild. This seems ridiculous. I don't like. Imagine coupling both of these, right? So this blood rate is the blood counter. Imagine countering someone, and while you're immaterial, aka your iframe. If you're familiar with blood counter, once you counter somebody, you have iframes. So imagine you get a high, increase your iframes, and you're invisible while it's happening. It's like, that's kind of insane. On top of that, you have like this. Could be crazy depending on how, if you use stuff that applies leech. I'm not really sure. I guess like if you had like maybe a legendary weapon where like axes or mace or something that has a very wide AoE, and you can apply leech to a large amount of targets and then counter and like consume it and immediately like, go invisible for a long period of time and reduce the cooldown so you can just do it again early. That is interesting. This seems crazy. The first primary attack within 5 seconds deals up to 50% bonus damage. So, couple this with a heavy hitting, single hit, like slow attacking weapon, like greatsword. Let's see, a mace, etc., etc. Anything that hits very hard but slowly as their primary attack. This could be a huge amount. And I'm curious if this buff, so this is what I don't understand yet. I want to test this. Is if this 5-second thing can stack with, say, a Veil of Blood or Veil of whatever move, where you dash and you have the increased attack damage after your first dash. Can it stack? Like, could I, if with like a perfect roll, could you, the dash is 25% damage bonus. Could you like get a perfect roll where you have this that gives 50%, but then also this is 50%, so the Veil of Blood increases damage by your next primary attack by up to 25%. So imagine you had both of those going, and it was like 50, 25, and then the normal available blood bonus of 25. Are you hitting someone for a bonus 100% damage? Is that possible? Don't know. I want to try that though. So yeah, this seems pretty interesting. The invisibility thing, I really want to mess around with that. That seems like kind of nuts, honestly. I mean, maybe I'm like overplaying it in my mind, but blood counter is already such a good move that in my mind, if it's like, not only can I counter you, but also I'm going to have this situation where I'm just invisible and you don't get to know where, like, it just puts you, it like extends the power and advantage that the counter gives you by just a huge amount. You can engage with that, you can disengage with that, you can flank, you can, move over to the side and swap weapons and, like set up something else. There's so many things you can do with this. And also, think of like the terror that you would feel if you went up against someone and you're like, oh, let me hit this guy, and they counter you and they just disappear. And you're just like, oh, what? Okay, hold on. wait a minute. Like, where do I go here? What's going on here, right? So that's I really want to try this out. Sanguine Coil. There's some really crazy stuff on this. This junk is... Sanguine Coil was always like a good move, and I'm not going to try to say it was bad. I never really enjoyed using it. It seemed like, I don't know, I was always kind of like, why wouldn't I just use Chaos Volley? If I was going to use something to do damage to somebody, why wouldn't I just use Chaos Volley? If I wanted to heal, I get, that makes sense. Okay, you want to heal. It is good, but it's like, I don't know. I just never really was a fan of it, but looking at these are crazy. Like, okay, first 4 charges, it doesn't matter if you have anything, if you only had this, that's, at like the beginning of a fight, this is crazy. I mean, that's 4. So, if I remember correctly, Sanguine Coil is 100% spell power. So, if you had this with 4 charges, I mean, that's just a flat 400% potential damage just from that alone. Like, obviously, it's like 100% per charge, plus 1 is for 400% of your spell power just with this thing. So, that's pretty solid. But here is where it gets nuts. Hit bounces projectile to an additional target or the caster to either damage or heal in this huge range. So you already heal yourself when you hit somebody with Sanguine Coil. So like, if you hit an enemy, you're healing and then also healing again if it bounces back to you, or you're like double bouncing between other people. I would imagine that the damage, the projectile damage, I mean, I would imagine it heals you from that, but maybe not. Maybe it doesn't do that, but increased healing, increased damage, 15% damage increase, actually kind of nuts with 4 charges. You had both of these, that's pretty insane. Lethal attacks restore 1 charge. That's, in my mind, that's a PvE move. I guess if you were like PvPing somebody in a large group of enemies, that could come into play where you like have a bounce where, you bounce off the enemy vampire, it bounces into a low HP. Like maybe they're using something with skeletons and they have low HP skeletons and it bounces off and kills a skeleton and then it instantly restores charges. So you're just kind of like, maybe you do an AoE, like, a counter, a blood right, in the middle of their skeletons, get them all low, and you just start throwing projectiles like crazy, hitting a skeleton, it starts bouncing onto everything, bouncing around everything, just kills everything, instantly resets your charges. You're just spamming. That could be something that happens. I can see that being a thing. Shadow Bolt, this is pretty cool. Forks into projectiles. I would like to see how this works with like AoEs or consuming leech and whatnot. I really want to know how the consuming a debuff thing works. That's something I'm really interested in. Specifically, I'll show you down in the chaos tree what I mean, why I want to know that. But this seems really interesting. Just Shadow Bolt already, this right here is wild. Decreased cast time. We know Shadow Bolt is the thing that takes a while to wind up. That's pretty sick. This is really nice. Make it a lot harder to dodge. That's interesting. I'm just kind of interesting. I'm interested to see what this looks like, how this functions. But Veil of Blood. So you'll notice on each of these veils, a lot of them have things like dash through applies debuff. All in all, this one's actually kind of sick. I was looking at the math. I was thinking the math on this, like an end game. Let's just say not even like end game, but Dawnthorn. So 2.3. Let's just say an average of like 2% healing. 2% on 400 HP with Dawnthorn Scent is what, like 8 HP, so it increases the HP heal by 8, and you're already, I can't remember the exact number, but it's already healing a pretty substantial amount. So like an additional 8 HP. I know that doesn't seem like a huge amount, but I don't know, like maybe if you're doing a full like heal build, does this just become this thing where you're applying leech on people, and so you're hitting them with leech? So, like, the leech is healing you, this is healing you, the normal attack is healing you, and all of a sudden, like, one Veil of Blood is healing you, like, 40 HP in one hit? You know what I mean? Like, is that, like, are we getting to that level of just, like, this crazy healing bonus, where before it was, like, it was nice, for sure, but all of a sudden you're in this huge sustain build, where, like, you don't even really have to use a Sanguine Coil to do it. You just have to apply leech with something, and then just instant, like, imagine dashing through an enemy with this, applying leech, hitting them with this, and all of a sudden you heal for, like I said, 40 HP. That's like, oh, you hit me with a spell, dash, attack, now I'm full HP. I'm full back to whatever I was. So that's kind of interesting. Aftershock, this I think this move actually changed. I think it comes out faster, or at least it has a wider thing. The old one was just so bad, but I saw this on a stream yesterday, and it looked like it was bigger, potentially, and came out faster. And if that's the case, it might be something worth looking at. Like applying, like, especially because of this, that the cast, so there's two stages of this move. There's the cast, and then there's the explosions afterwards. It's like Quinty's thing, where the thing travels along the ground. It's just more predictable. It's in a straight line. Or Arrow the Stonebreaker, his thing. It's like, I'm assuming you still get it from him. So there's two stages: the cast and the explosion. So maybe there's a situation where you can snare someone like this, the fading snare, and if they don't have their dash, and they don't think to swap to like an ability move, like a movement ability like Axe Q or whatever to get out of it. Then maybe there's a world where you just chunk them with this combo here, where you snare them and then the explosion, ignites, and then all of a sudden you do like secondary AoEs. They're getting snared, they can't get out of it. Boom, 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 boom. Increase the damage, have all that, or maybe the decreases cooldown so you're spamming it. So this is where I'm very curious about how the debuff consumption works. So I was reading this, and this already was like blowing my mind with how good this is. I didn't realize. So I thought from the releases, the dev blogs that they did, I thought that they were saying that, hey, we changed the way shields work. Now it just acts like a shield, and if somebody attacks it, it like charges the shield, and then you recast it. Like you recast the shield, and then like after it's charged and it does something. I thought that's what they meant whenever they said shields now you recast with shields. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I figured it was something to do with the fact that pistols have, they have Spear Q, which is like a rapid fire thing. Pistols is a rapid fire thing. There's moves like Chaos Volley and whatnot that are multi-hit attacks. And I figured it was something where they were like, well, it would be unfair, or like some of the new enemies in the Gloomrot zone have machine guns, and so imagine you pull up a Chaos Barrier, and they shoot the Chaos Barrier, and they're hitting it 10 times, and you shoot 10 projectiles back at them, and that would like kind of make it a little bit broken. I thought that was like what was going on, and they're like, hey, we're not going to do it that way. We're just going to have it charge the Chaos Barrier, and then you like shoot a wave of projectile out. It turns out that's not actually how it works. Chaos Barrier. Now instead of being, I think in the base game currently it's like 70% Gloomrot. It's like 75% spell damage per reflection or something like that. The new version is 50% of your spell power, and it reflects just the same. But you also can recast and shoot out a projectile that looks almost like a Chaos Volley, like a single Chaos Volley. I don't know what the damage is on it, but you can like just recast it whenever you would like. So if you miss your barrier, right? Say you pull up your shield to try to, because you think somebody baits your shield out, and you're like, oh man, like, oh, and they bait it out, they don't attack you, and you're like, shoot, I didn't get any value from that shield. Well, you can actually just recast the shield, and it'll shoot a mini little Chaos Volley bolt out. So that's huge. So this is where I was the reason I was getting very interested in this consumption thing, okay? I'm saying all of this to explain how it works, because this combo right here between these two makes me extremely interested. Say you use Chaos Volley and or whatever move, and you get someone ignited with chaos damage. Then you have Chaos Barrier, which has this. Projectile consumes ignite to conjure an AoE. Okay? So imagine somebody hits your shield, or not even that, like the projectile hit consumes. So like, does somebody like, I guess this is like if somebody hits your shield. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, I understand now. My mind is clearing. I get what's going on here. I was seeing it like as this between the two, and I was thinking like, dude, what? Like, is it like per hit on the enemy? What it is if they use a projectile and hit your shield, then it conjures and it consumes the ignite on them. I'm guessing this is what this is saying. Consumes the ignite on them and conjures an AoE that does this, which is actually still really good, because it technically means you're still, deflecting the attack, so they're still going to get hit by, the deflection, and there's going to be an AoE on top of them. So that seems crazy. And then there's also this, where you just like recast 3. So if that works the way I'm reading it now, I mean, this is still pretty solid, and this is still going to be really good. But I was thinking there was going to be a situation where you could like combine these, where like every time you hit them with the projectiles that you recast, it would consume ignite. So you like ignite them, and then you hit them with this, and then it's like the first one consumes and detonates this, the second one reignites them, the third one consumes and detonates this again. And I was like, dude, that sounds broken beyond belief. But anyway, this actually, I'm curious about this 70%, up to 70% pull distance on a player who's playing long range with like pistols would just ruin. That's like, it forces out player or pistol E. So that's interesting. Chaos Volley. Hit consumes ignite, dealing AoE damage. Interesting. I'm interested with this. This is actually kind of interesting for like almost like a mixed rushdown / poke build, where you're kind of like poking them with Chaos Volley, but also trying to keep your movement speed up and make it hard to hit you and easier to get to them. This seems interesting for bossing, but also like hitting. Fighting multiple people, you got to go for both of them at once. That might be nice. This is ridiculous. I mean, just flat out. This is like, hey, remember when we nerfed Chaos Volley? We're going to buff it again. If you get this max roll, that's actually better than the old Chaos Volley. So this is like ideal, in my opinion. Cooldown, hilarious. Range and speed, I'd have to see exactly what this looks like and how it functions, but it might be really good because the faster it goes, the harder it is to dodge. So Power Surge, I mentioned, the physical power increase, insane. Attack speed, move speed, not really sure how I feel about that. This, I mean, maybe it's insane in like PvE, but applying a shield, I mean, that already does that in the current game. We know how good that would be. Removes negative effects, solid. This is really nice for Winged Horror in the current state. I don't know how Winged Horror has changed in the new game, but there you go. Void, I know a lot of people have been really liking this move. They've already liked this move in the base game currently, or the current version, but the updated version, it seems like a lot of people are really enjoying Void. So I think it has something to do with this. The explosion consumes ignite and does this. Also conjures 3 AoE that has 3 AoE explosions, and can apply ignite, etc., etc. Increased damage, huge damage. Recharge rate, pretty nice. And it has 2 charges as it stands, I believe. So Veil of Chaos. It's Veil of Chaos. I don't really know. Increase Elude is probably going to be one of the nicest things to have on a dash gem, I would imagine. I mean, having more illusion is just, or eluding, being able to elude longer, which is just iframes, is like, I mean, that's really good. So there you go. Interesting idea here. This is interesting. So if they already have ignite on them and you dash, your next primary attack can make a big boom. Anyway, now we're into ice. This one is like, this one honestly seems like one of the so this one and I mean, everything in ice, I'm actually kind of shocked. Maybe I don't understand exactly how this all plays out, but if anyone knows anything about PvP right now, ice builds are like kind of the king, it seems like, for just like 1v1 PvPing, just because of the potential of freezing someone, refreezing someone, stunning, and capping them. Just chaining stuns and freezes all together is what makes frost so strong as it is. So maybe I'm not understanding something, but reading these gems, it seems like not only like it seems almost like they were like, nah, that's not good enough. We're gonna make him even crazier. So maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong about that, people with experience, please feel free to correct me. But reading some of these, I'm like, is this just gonna get nerfed? This seems like it might get nerfed. So let me explain why I'm saying that. Decrease cast time on Crystal Lance. Everyone knows Crystal Lance has super slow cast time, but it hits like a bomb if you hit somebody with it. So that is crazy to have reduced cast time. Super nice. Projectile speed and range. Speed and range. It's pretty slow as well. So both of these might be super nice to just consistently hit someone. It hits really hard. Projectile pierces up to 3 enemies. Interesting. Really good for PvE. This is okay, but this. Let me know what is this. So you chill somebody and then nuke that. You have this, and this. Or maybe you use this as well and you freeze them for longer, which is nice to, like wait for cooldowns to reset on your weapons and stuff. So that might be something to look at. Like there's so many good things in this, but I'm just looking at like let's just go with this for now. Damage, projectile speed, decreased cast time. So it's like, oh, someone's chilled. Now it makes it harder for them to dodge because they're chilled, and this thing goes faster, which makes it even harder to dodge. And the cast time is reduced, which makes it harder to dodge. So now you're like almost guaranteed to just obliterate them with this thing whenever they're chilled in any way. It makes it very difficult for them to they're gonna have to watch out for this very hard. Frost barrier. Barrier hits 3 max. Decreased cooldown. Pretty nuts. Pushes enemies back. Sure. Increased damage. This is like, what are we smoking here? Maybe this is just, maybe I don't understand this, but so this is like if somebody hits you 3 times, it can increase up to 30% spell power for 6 seconds. Huh? What? So Frostbat, this one is similar to that one. This was interesting to me. Hitting an affected chill or freeze shields the caster by, I don't know how long the shield lasts, but it gives you a shield now. Which is like, okay, well now it's even crazier because Frostbat's already good. So you chill somebody and then you chunk them with Frostbat, and you get the shield, and it's like, let's say you don't really have your abilities set up in a way currently where you're able to fully capitalize on the freeze. Maybe you can only hit them with a spear Q or something, or whatever it may be, whatever attack it may be. You hit them with that move, bust them out of the freeze, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to hit you, but you have a 70% shield? So like you're good? That's crazy. Why is this so much? I don't really understand why that's so much. Cast time, again, crazy. It's already fast, so making it faster is like, okay. Ice block. This one, so this move functions if you've played any other MMO where there's been an ice block ability where you like WoW or whatever it may be, where you freeze yourself. Dota 2 has a character who does this, Frost Wyvern, Winter Wyvern. Basically, just freeze the target, you or an ally, in place, get a huge shield, and then heal yourself over time during that situation. The one thing I'll say is you can actually, from the tooltip that I read on this, you can actually interrupt it. So like if your interrupt key is X, you can just press X to interrupt this cast. So cast it on yourself for a huge chunk of shield to block something, and then whenever you need it to stop, just press X and interrupt it. So this is where it gets interesting. Next primary attack, huge damage, up to 40% on the next primary attack, and inflicts chill. Really nice. Yeah, huge AoE chill, or if they're chilled, then you freeze in an AoE around you. So somebody comes up and jumps on you, you hit them with a frostbat or something, and then hit ice block, and they just freeze. Increase shield, increase free. Yeah, so I don't really know how I feel with this ability in general. It might be interesting in certain situations to just kind of tank nukes really quick. Just be like, oh, let me pop the ice block before this thing hits me, and then just interrupt it after the nuke happened, and so I could just keep going on with my life. Okay, last thing. This is crazy. What even is this? Okay, recast to conjure an AoE that explodes 40 to 70% and apply chill. So Ice Nova, and I can recast it. So use it once and then just use it again. You're almost guaranteed to hit them. Explosion shields. Yeah, explosion shields. This is kind of cool. It's almost like the Purgatory move or Blood Fountain, but instead it shields you instead. So, but this is crazy. Even with recast, explosion consumes chill to apply freeze, even with recast. So you like use Ice Nova, and if you haven't frozen them yet, then the recast ability can do it too. Like, you just recast it, and now it's like guaranteed to freeze them. I don't know. Huge damage increase against, chilled. Some of the other ones have that. Wild. These ones are interesting. Next attack consumes chill. So you can actually apply freeze with Veil of Frost now, which this is the same on a lot of these other things here. But this is kind of crazy. Apply, with Veil of Frost, we can consume it, the chill to apply freeze. You can actually freeze people with your dash attack. Next thing gives you a shield. So this is interesting. So I'm not sure if Veil of Frost still gives a shield. I bet it probably does. So I imagine like this plus this, you get a huge shield, and then a shield again. Interesting. Illusion explodes. Etc. Okay. Illusion stuff. Mistrance. This is actually my favorite counter thematically. I think this is like probably the coolest counter that they have made so far. In terms of just how it works and the idea behind it. After reading this, this is either it's really hard to figure out exactly how all of these things are going to play out because there's just so many moving parts with all of these changes. So it's difficult to really figure out exactly what it means when I read all of this stuff. But reading this, I'm like, this thing seems either really, really meh or completely crazy based on what you get. So like, if you roll a high one of these, this is insane. Reduces secondary weapon school cooldown by 80% whenever you trigger it. So secondary weapon is your E. Already mistrance, it refunds or it cools down your Q. So this is saying not only does it cool down your Q, but it'll also up to 80% cool down your E. So it'll just like immediately resets your weapons. So you're just constantly throwing weapon skills out. That seems, to me personally, that seems insane. Obviously, you have to get somebody to hit you. But yeah. Phantasm is really interesting. So I haven't decided if this is good or not. It's hard to tell because how you gain the Phantasm stacks is really what determines if it's like usable or not. But what Phantasm does is each stack of Phantasm will decrease your spell cooldown by 1%. And each stack gives a chance to reset the cooldown on cast by 2%, up to 10 stacks. So, and then once the recast happens, once you've got a reset cooldown, it removes all of your stacks. So up to 10 stacks, meaning you'll have up to a 10% CDR on your spells, and up to a 20% chance to reset a spell on cast once you have this going. And then once you get the reset, it all just resets to 0. So this gives 1 to 4. If you trigger it, gives 1 to 4 stacks of that immediately. Which, there's a lot of other ways to get Phantasm. So it makes me wonder, is this good? It's hard to tell for me. It's hard for me to tell if this is actually good. I also don't know if Scholar Blood still recasts moves. And if it does, is the recast you get from Scholar Blood independent of the Phantasm stacks? Like, if I have Scholar Blood and I have Phantasm, where Phantasm gets up to 20% chance to, recast, and Scholar Blood's up to, I think it's like 20% as well. Is that like a combined 40%, or is it like 20% chance to proc the Phantasm, or 20% chance to proc the Scholar Blood, and whichever one procs, like if the Scholar Blood procs, the Phantasm stays there, which that seems broken, but I don't know, I don't know. This seems crazy. 50%. Trigger increases primary attack damage, first primary attack damage by 50% for 5 seconds. That's a huge chunk. This one's also really crazy. Applies fear. I'm not really sure. I have to see how it works. If this is like on the counter or on the landing. Because if it's on the... So it says trigger, right? So does this mean like, somebody hit me whenever I used Mistrance and they just immediately got feared and it's up to 2 seconds? Because if that's the case, the issue with this is there's a huge delay whenever you proc Mistrance, there's like this really long delay time between the time that the counter happens and the time that you actually move to your target location. So it's hard for me to tell if this is even good, because at a low end, 1.3 seconds, it's almost like that's going to just end before your mistrance even teleports. So what does that even do? But on a 2 second, you might have a little bit of time. So I'm not really sure exactly how this is going to work. It's potentially insane if you have enough time to react out of the teleport. So if you can react out of the teleport, you could, like, somebody hits you. This is basically a stun to set up, immediately set up something, because it's gonna, what is it gonna reset your? Let's say you have axes, right? Well, you can run a mistrance with axes, and you just use E on somebody, and then they, and you bait out an attack. You proc this, they fear themselves. You teleport towards them or wherever, and then you hit them. Then it almost fully resets your axe E again. You're just gonna, like, hit them with that again soon. I don't know. It seems crazy. Not really sure how this works. It just depends on how good Weaken even is. I'm not really sure this is worth worrying about. I don't care about this. Mosquito, hard for me to tell exactly what this is. I haven't played around with this enough, so I'm just going to skip this. If you know what this is, the mosquito is like the undead mosquito. It's now an illusion. It's changed a bit, so it's hard for me to tell exactly how good this is. I'm not really sure. Phantom Aegis, I think this is like Aegis of Blood is now a Phantom Aegis. This one seems actually kind of interesting. Increased spell power by 24%. That's something to look at. That's kind of crazy. What if you have that in, like, Chaos Volley or something? That's a big damage. Recast, remove. Yeah, so this is interesting. I'm not really sure if I care about this, but it might be interesting. You can recast it to, like, burst your shield and then, like, suck people in towards you. Again, just read this. It's pretty self-explanatory on that. Spectral Wolf, Fading Snare on the first hit. I'm not sure. Maybe this one's really nice, but I'm not really a Spectral Wolf fan. This is interesting. Kind of gives you the Pelora heal. Wraith Spear. Now, this thing hits like a truck as far as I can tell, and it pierces. So I'm reading through this, and it actually seemed kind of interesting, where the hit applies a Fading Snare, right? And then, so I think the thing that I saw on this, if you got 3 on this, was like increase the damage. Where is this? Weakened shield caster. So this one's interesting, but I think it was like Fading Snare, increased damage, and increased projectile range. So you're kind of just like chucking this thing across super far away and just doing tons of damage and, like, catching somebody, and then you can maybe, like, follow it up with an Axe E or whatever. So Veil of Illusion. This is interesting. It says illusion projectiles deal damage. So I'm assuming that the illusion no longer has projectiles that deal damage, that maybe it just applies weak. So again, not sure on this. And then lightning. So the problem with lightning is I know somewhat of what everything here does, but it's hard to tell exactly how crazy it is because I haven't used it. So just use it. Looking through this, ball lightning is like almost like a void thing. You, like, throw out this little. It doesn't summon. Wherever you target, it doesn't summon the lightning there. It, like, goes out from you to that location. So you can recast it, detonate. That seems kind of crazy. Explosion consumes static. So static is the effect from lightning. Applying a mini stun. That seems like an interrupt. I'm not really sure how much time this is in terms, like, if this is going to give you enough time to do something with it. Maybe it does. If it does, that's kind of crazy. You could just kind of, like, throw this out and then immediately start a stun, like, CC combo. Explosion pushes enemies back. Cool. You can throw this behind them and then make them explode and then shove them towards you, shove them away from you, wherever you want. If you're good enough with your skill shots, you can make that happen. Tick damage, projectile range. This might be interesting. From what I've seen, the thing doesn't have actually all that much range, so maybe having some more range might be nice, specifically when coupled with something like this. So you can, like, maybe someone's playing distance, you can throw that out further and get behind them and, like, knock them up to 3 meters towards you, which really helps you close the gap. That might be super nice. Cyclone. This one, so far, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of people use this, but this thing seems crazily, like, super annoying to deal with, like, against, because from the video I saw of this, the spell resets its own cooldown before the spell's even done. So what happens is you throw the thing out, you throw the spell out, and this little, like, lightning bolt kind of thing goes out. Then it gets to a max range, and it turns around and comes back towards you. And then once it gets back to you, it just starts spinning around on, like, an infinity symbol almost, where just, like, around you just keeps spinning and going and going and going and just randomly is a cyclone around a giant AoE still doing damage. And that lasts for like 10 seconds. But the spell only has like a 9-second cooldown. So like you can just keep throwing it out and it's just constantly going. So I'm like thinking about that, I'm like, what? Like, is this not the most obnoxious thing to deal with ever? I don't know. It's hard to like, target someone very, very well because it seems like it goes kind of slow. But increase projectile speed, increase the damage, duration. I wouldn't really use this because you can just keep casting it however long you want. But these two here, and then like static, one of these static things. I mean, maybe this thing is just like the most obnoxious thing to deal with in open world, where you can like catch people in small areas and they just get roasted by the cyclone over and over again. Discharge. This one's interesting. I would highly recommend you go look at this. This is the airborne thing is interesting, where you hit them and you knock them airborne. So definitely take a look at this. Just go look up the ability itself. If there's plenty of people out there who will show what it does. Lightning Curtain. This is the one I said that like might be OP, but I'm still not sure. I don't know if this blocks projectiles, like your own. It says it blocks projectiles. I don't know if it blocks your own projectiles as well as the enemies. If it doesn't if it doesn't block the enemies, I'm sorry. If it blocks the enemies but doesn't block yours, this just seems really, really obnoxious to deal with. So, a melee build would probably not mind it as much, but yeah, you get the idea. So this one's pretty interesting. Yeah, hit on caster and ally gives you a shield. Hit applies a fading snare, blocks your projectiles. Next 3 primary attacks deal bonus damage and apply status. So the next 3 primary attacks, is this like up to 3, or so it says blocks 3 max? So I'm like, is this up to 3, or is it like 1 per projectile blocked? So very interesting. And then we go Polarity Shift. This is the one where it like swaps locations with you and the enemy. So not really sure what the timing is on these. If it's just like instantaneous, So these might be interesting. I'm not really sure. Again, I don't really know how these work, but it seems interesting. Veil of Storms. This again, the mini stun. If you like have a bunch of static and a bunch of mini stuns, I can see that getting extremely obnoxious. To just like constantly be getting staticked and then stunned and then staticked and then stunned and then over and over again. So, and then finally we are on to the Unholy tree. This is probably the tree to me that had between this and Illusion, but personally this tree has the most interesting changes for all of the spell schools. Honestly, this is and on top of this, the things you can get with this are just wild. You can see how many different options are. Like, compare it to this. Like, here's the lightning. This one has 5, 6 options, 5 options, 6 options, 5, 4. Or yeah, sorry, 5, etc. This one's got like 8, however many this is. 9. This is 9. Yeah, 9 different things you can have on this one. Looks like about 8 on this one. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? There's tons of different options on each of these. So it seems like an Unholy can have like multiple builds, multiple things going on, and each of the abilities like can just become so crazy depending on how you want to play. Which means it'll be harder to get to. Let's say you have a really preferred Unholy build that you like. Because there's a larger variance in how many options you get, it means it's a lot harder to get a build that the build you want with those abilities, because you're going to have to wade through all of these different ones here. However, if you get the thing you want, it seems like there's some really crazy stuff here. So this right here says hit an enemy under 30% HP, deals damage, lethal attacks reduce the cooldown. So this is like, say there's a bunch of like skeletons around or low HP PvE stuff. You can use this and it kind of executes them. But a lot of the Unholy stuff already has this like execution idea where like if they're low, you do bonus damage. Condemn, I think, is probably going to be nuts because it increased flat 15% increased damage that the enemy takes. This, I mean, look at this. Explosion conjures 8 projectiles that deal up to 40% damage and apply Condemn. So, like, how are you getting away from that? It just like you throw out Bone Explosion. I missed. Oh, it doesn't matter because 8 projectiles just shot out and hit everybody and gave them Condemn anyway. Like, okay. More damage, why not? This seems really crazy. This one's honestly seems kind of nuts. If you can get a nice roll. Launch 2 projectiles that deal damage. So yeah, Corrupted Skull. This is a new one. I think this is kind of like I think it's. I'll have to take a look at this one again. I think it's almost. It's not exactly like not Purgatory. Whatever the one is, Pestilence. I don't think it's exactly like Pestilence. I think it's like replacing Pestilence. So this one's. See, I'm not really 100% sure on this one. Take a look at this one yourself. Death Knight. This is like the Illusion Knight. So I'm curious about how this one works. Applies a fading snare. So if I like just target this on top of somebody, and they don't have a dash, are they just getting hit by this no matter what they do? Because this thing hits like a truck. At least it does in the Illusion Tree currently. So that's interesting. You can just like do that. Hit summons a skeleton mage, which is like there's a bunch of different summons on each of the trees now. Or sorry, in the Unholy tree. There's like normal skeletons as well as a skeleton mage. So there's a chance that you can summon a skeleton mage instead of a regular skeleton who does like they do big damage. So this right here is like a guaranteed summon skeleton mage with increased damage. So like not only does it give you a skeleton mage, but it has more damage than normal. Increases him for 30%. And then on top of that, you can almost like execute them, like increase damage by 50% to enemies below 30% HP. So all in all, I'm curious about how well this functions. I haven't seen this in action yet. Soulburn, it sounds almost like a life drain. Is this a targeted move? Because if it is, it's a little weird. Or is it like a... Because I believe the tooltip says it works on up to 3 people. So I'm not really sure what that means. Does it mean it's just like a targeted move? Or which is like would it be like the first targeted move against enemies that is in the game? So it also silences people. It drains life. So it's like it does damage, silences, and drains life. Up to 3 people. That's what the tooltip says on this spell, which is why I'm curious if it's targeted. I don't really get it. Or is it like an AoE around you and then up to 3 people just like get hit, which is still a targeted move, but also, at least it's within an AoE around you and not like, you pick, you choose like that guy and that guy and that guy. Yeah, increased damage, increased life drain. Each people hit by silence, you can reduce the cooldown. That's kind of crazy. And then summons 3 skeletons to increase spell and physical power per skeleton for 8 seconds. So this is the thing that was like, I was looking at this and like, okay, if you roll this high in 12%, you have skeletons that will give you up to 12% physical, 36, so 3 skeletons. So I'm sorry. If you have 3 skeletons up and you cast this, you consume the 3 of them, you'll get 36% physical power and spell power for 8 seconds. That's way too high. That's so much. So imagine you have this with like, some other thing that's boosting your spell and magic power. You have crits, maybe you have like a crit, a really good crit item or weapon on like a legendary something, and you hit somebody with a big chunk. Maybe you have like a greatsword with a nice crit percentage on there. And you cue someone with greatsword with 36% physical power, and then like another ability that increases your physical power, or maybe your blood type increases physical power, whatever it may be. And your crit is just your dash just doing ungodly amounts of damage. Word of the Damned. This move has changed pretty substantially. Well, it's like better than it was by far. It seems like instead of always summoning skeletons, it summons 1 skeleton, then has a chance to summon additional skeletons 50% for every hit after. So if let's say somebody hits your Ward of Damned once, it'll summon a skeleton. Every hit after that, there's a 50-50 chance of it summoning a skeleton again. You see this? Barrier has a chance to summon a skeleton mage, so that sounds crazy. Oh, and you can recast the Ward of the Damned and hit someone with a wave attack, similar to the other shields. Hit someone with a wave attack that does damage and inflicts condemn on them. So, Ward of the Damned seems like it's gotten pretty ridiculous, especially with the skeleton mages, which would just be obnoxious to deal with. This right here, melee hits deal 50% to the attack, deals damage equal to 50% to the attacker. That's so annoying. That's so annoying to deal with for melee attackers. So obnoxious. Barrier projectiles heals you. Again, very annoying. Recast shields. Yeah, if you recast the ability, now shields your allied skeletons for 4 seconds is kind of cool. Anyway, Veil of Bones, dashing through enemies applies Condemn. Dashing through allied skeleton heals them. Sure. Agony and Bane. So Agony and Bane are two different things. So if somebody's affected by Condemn, so this is where it's interesting. The other things, it's like, oh, it consumes the chill to inflict frost. Well, of course, after the frost, they're not chilled anymore. Or consumes Ignite. Consumes Ignite to deal an AoE damage. Or consumes Leech to, etc., 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 etc. This doesn't actually read as consumes. It just says if they have agony, it applies, or so if they have condemn, it does agony or bane. But the condemn just doesn't get consumed, it stays there, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't know why that's the case. And agony is a DOT, damage over time, take up to this much every second for 4 seconds. That's huge. And then bane is summon a skeleton mage on death with bonus HP. So I guess that's on death, meaning like against a player, this wouldn't actually be super good, but against in PvE, this is like ridiculous. So yeah. Anyway, that is the changes so far. Again, I'm gonna link this in the description. Shout out to Vinn and our boy SitCloud6083 for linking this to me and letting me use this. Hope that helps you get an idea about what kind of gems, what kind of abilities there are with these gems. Huge stuff here. Feel free to share this with anyone you know, like the video, the spreadsheet. Just share it, get it out there, let people know the information. Power to the people, right? Get people out there. And again, go check out the dojo. Go check out the dojo. Whenever you start this game, if you are newer to the game or you're not confident in your PvP, listen to me now. It can be very frustrating to go into a server, even in like a 2v1 situation or a 3v1 situation where you and your boys are having fun in V-Rising, you go in and you meet this veteran PvP god. I mean, I've done this myself where I've gone in and I've fought 2 to 3 people and just won. I guarantee you people from the dojo can do this very well as well. Some of these, some of the PvP gods. So, I've seen many people do this. So if you are unconfident in your PvP and you're like, oh, I'm going to play V-Rising, but I want to play on a PvP server and it's not, it's not I don't really have a good experience because, I'm not really confident in my PvP, hit the dojo. All right. He has a Discord link here as well. They're welcoming. Ask your questions. Say, hey, I like these abilities. Are these good for PvP? They'll answer your questions. All right. So hit the dojo. Again, thanks to Vinn. Thanks to SitCloud. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And thank you for watching. We will catch you in the next one.